Coming in at number 10, let's start off with the most famous interruption. We have Max Headroom. This is an absolute classic, although I would be absolutely gutted if someone interrupted my episode of Doctor Who. I say my episode like I've ever been on it, but you know what I mean, watching it. The story goes that on the evening of November the 22nd, 1987, the good people of Illinois were enjoying an episode of Doctor Who in Chicago on WTTW Channel 11. The episode was Horror of Fang Rock, which thematically is a bit different, but if I'd seen this interruption, I guess I just would have thought it was part of the show, because Doctor Who is famously sci-fi and freaky. Suddenly, instead of watching the Fourth Doctor's colourful antics, viewers saw a person in a Max Headroom mask and sunglasses. So Max Headroom, for those of you like me who have no idea who that is / was an AI TV character in the 80s, and well, in mask form, honestly, he looks pretty horrifying. The imposter hijacked the broadcast for 90 seconds in which he rambled about corporate America, Coca-Cola, the TV series Clutch Cargo, and oddly was throwing some shade at WGN anchor Chuck Swirsky. At the time, it was said that the perpetrator would face a maximum of $10,000 in fines or possibly even jail time. It turns out that the Headroom figure had also interrupted an American football game for a short period of time too earlier that day. Now, it's been 32 years since it happened and we're still none the wiser as to who did it and why, but here is a creepy clip of what viewers saw that day. And another. Okay, warning. Watching this next interruption may make you feel sick or make you hallucinate. Coming in at number 9, we have the Wyoming Incident. It's a popular internet urban legend, my favourite, but some people think it's real. Indeed, there appears to be evidence of it on YouTube, and as we know, we can always trust things we see on YouTube. So the Wyoming Incident is allegedly a broadcast hack that happened in 2008, affecting a number of TV viewers in the town of Niobrara in Wyoming. Did I say that right? Their regular news show was mysteriously interrupted.
Wyoming today, making him the first to visit in preparation for the 2008 general election. Republican President Hijack.
They said, "You will see such pretty things, you are ill, we just want to fix you, and what hides in your mind?" Honestly, that question was later answered with the chilling message, "We've already seen it, have another watch." Honestly, freakier still, those who saw the interruption reported having a physical reaction to the footage. Now, this included vomiting, hallucinations, headaches. Others said that the frequencies actually made viewers' eyeballs vibrate, creating a visual illusion. I don't know if anything can make my eyeballs vibrate, that's mental. Now, some deny the incident ever happened, and others say that it was viral marketing for an interactive online game. Moving on to number 8, we have the Bible-busting Playboy. Playboy is, well, you know what Playboy is, I think. Also, they have a late-night TV show mainly comprised of busty ladies and sexy time. Like, honestly, you do you, whatever. Playboy has always been controversial, especially in the past when people felt more strongly about sex being a sin. With that in mind, let me tell you what happened in September 1987. So someone, we don't know who, interrupted the broadcast late at night with a quote from the Bible. Now, the verses seem to be taken from Exodus and Matthew and read, "Thus saith the Lord thy God, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." Would I be a good preacher? I don't know. Probably not. So it all appeared in black and white text during a naughty movie. Now, a number of perturbed viewers phoned in to ask what was happening. Was it some kind of mysterious divine intervention, like stop watching Playboy? Honestly though, I don't think it was necessarily the most applicable Bible verse, but whatever. Coming in at number 7, we have Anonymous versus Fox News.
Dear Fox News, it has come to our attention that you have been alienating the American people by propagating the left-right
Good old called Hacktivation Station. I think hacktivist is my favourite word of this century. In 2015, Anonymous, known for their creepy smiling Guy Fawkes masks and altered voices, took over a live Fox News broadcast. Now, Fox News was conducting a euthanasia interview when Anonymous took over. Now, they started by saying, "Dear Fox News, it has come to our attention that you have been alienating the American people by propagating the left-right." They continued by berating Fox for purposefully scaring people about terrorism and covering up corporate corruption. Anonymous said, "You have sacrificed your journalistic integrity for the dollar." They end by saying Fox have been poisoning the minds of America for too long. Anonymous does not forgive, Anonymous does not forget. Scary. Honestly, I don't know if I like Anonymous or not, but their masks do freak me out. The mystery here to me lies in who Anonymous really are. We just don't know yet. And also, how can they take down such a big and powerful station like Fox? Coming in at number 6, we have Captain Midnight. So who is Captain Midnight? Well, that really is the question. He sounds maybe a bit more glamorous than he actually is. Captain Midnight was an adventure franchise, but in this instance, it was a character constructed by a disgruntled HBO employee who was livid at the channel for raising their subscription prices to $12.95 a month, which I think is around the equivalent of $30 today. The interruption included a threat to the Showtime movie channel too. They simply said, "Beware." Then there was a period of black and white messed signal. Honestly, have a little watch. All of the cracking and buzzing throughout this is supposed to be HBO station trying to get their power back and Captain Midnight fighting by upping his power, which actually really does sound like an exciting superhero fight. Eventually HBO lost and was forced to stop at risk of blowing their transmitters. Okay, a little mid-list urban legend for you. Coming in at number 5, we have Baby Ogre at Midnight.
It's a fine day, people open windows, they leave their houses just for a short while.
So the Baby Ogre commercial is a Japanese ad for Kleenex, which sure is weird. The story goes that the commercial was hijacked by a curse, and after it aired in 1986, everyone involved died or met some kind of horrible luck. For example, the woman who was supposed to have birthed a demon baby in the advert died after actually giving birth in real life. Further urban legends say that if you watch the commercial at midnight, the footage will be interrupted and will warp in front of your very eyes, and you too will become a victim of the curse. Some people in the YouTube comment section for this video say that they have seen the commercial at midnight and it was interrupted and they are cursed, so watch out, I guess. Coming into number 4, we have the mysterious couple. I also do quite like just going sometimes. During regular broadcasting on ABC's affiliate WJLA, this image appeared on screen for several seconds. It's a grainy looking couple. CGI? To this day, nobody is sure exactly what this picture is of and what it means. It kind of looks like a computer generated riff on theatre masks, like a happy one and a sad one. This image appeared briefly with absolutely no context and no sound before vanishing off the screen. Many people said that there was a dark meaning to all of this, that this was no ordinary interruption. The cable company in charge of the broadcast said that there was a programming mix-up, which, okay, fine, but then I have to say, the plot does thicken. Some people uploaded videos of the interruption to YouTube, but all of the videos were wiped due to quote-unquote restricted access, and then all online accounts of the incident seem to have been wiped from the internet too, which is really weird. Coming in at number 3, we have the Winkers song. In June and July 2017, a UK local radio station, Mansfield 103.2 FM, had its signal interrupted 8 times throughout June and July 2017, with an indecent piece of music called the Winker Song by Ivor Biggin and the Red-Nosed Burglars. Back in the day, this song was banned from the radio because it is very blatantly about masturbation. I actually listened to this whole song while scripting this video, and it is pretty great and absolutely not appropriate. Anyone with a love of seedy British humour, please do have a listen. The last 20 seconds are what I would describe as pure magic. So what this frequent interruption means, it's hard to say, but clearly it's a symbol of anarchy. The perpetrator has never been identified, and honestly, I kind of think long may they reign. I'm so bad, I'm so naughty. Giggling away at the interruptions. Coming in at number 2, we have the aliens of Area 51. Coast to Coast AM was a talk show run by a chap called Art Bell. Now he was pretty famous, or infamous I should say, in his day. He did used to get a lot of strange calls on the show. The incident that took place on September the 12th, 1997 really takes the biscuit though. That night, Art got a call from a guy who claimed to have been an employee at Area 51, which obviously is the conspiracy base for the US Air Force where people say, you know, there were aliens that crash landed and were studied. The caller sounded absolutely terrified and claimed that they were coming for him, whoever they are. He said that he did not have much time to share with the world what he knew about Area 51. He talked about extra-dimensional beings who are not what they appear to be. He said that they have infiltrated the US military and are now, quote-unquote, taking over.
So give us something quick. Okay, what we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra-dimensional beings.
The caller began to sound even more erratic and panicked, and finally he started talking about how governments are trying to get human populations down to a manageable number so they're easier to control, which does sound like some conspiracy stuff to me. Just after this, the line went dead when the power cut out at the station. Now that's pretty fishy, right? By the time they got the backup generators running, the caller was gone. Now theorists do say it was more than a coincidence that the caller was cut off and then never heard from again, just when he began talking about the government. I mean, what do you think? Is Area 51 real? Have aliens infiltrated the military? Nah. Alright, speaking of aliens, this is one of my favourite mysterious broadcast interruptions. We have the story of Virillon. On a cold winter's night in the south of the UK in the 1970s, an alien interrupted the news, or so the story goes. In a regular newscast, Southern TV's news anchor Andrew Gardner was regaling the day's news headline when at 10:05 PM the TV picture started wobbling and the sound of the news anchor's measured delivery was all of a sudden replaced by a distorted alien voice. This voice then hijacked the station for nearly 6 minutes. The voice proclaimed to be one Virillon, a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command. He said, "For many years you have been seeing us as lights in the sky. We speak to you now in peace and wisdom as we have done to your brothers and sisters all over this planet, your planet Earth. We come to warn you of the destiny of your race and your world so that you may communicate to your fellow beings the course that you must take to avoid the disaster which threatens your world and the beings in our worlds around you." Use the word world a lot, have a listen for yourself.
False packets and guides are present operating on your world. They will suck your energy from you, the energy you call money.
So if you don't quite understand what he's saying, he's warning about false leaders and prophets putting money into evil pursuits. He ends the speech by imploring planet Earth to change its ways before it's, I quote, too late. Blimey. It really is still a mystery as to who is behind this prank. If it was a prank, it could have been, you know, like an actual alien. I for one absolutely hope that in the past 40 years, Virillon and the gang have been working on clear transmissions, because Honey barely understood a word of that.
In our number 10 spot, we have Raman Manuel. Chicago Mayor Raman Manuel may be a shapeshifter reptile. I'll let you decide. In September 2012, during a press conference, viewers noticed that his eyes seemed to transform into, well, I'm not quite sure I know how to describe this because it's terrifying. Around his eyes, we see darkness of some sort, and suddenly his actual eyes become enlarged. Honestly, whatever happened wasn't human. Did he reveal himself as a shapeshifter reptile? I'm thinking yes. If you're enjoying this video so far, smash that like button as it'll really help us out. In our number 9 spot, we have Timothy Geithner. Former secretary to the treasurer, Timothy Geithner has been accused of being a shapeshifter. Why? Well, because there's some weird footage of him possibly doing just that. Footage was taken of him at a press conference sitting and listening to the speaker when all of a sudden something starts happening to his right eye. A weird pattern that honestly looks like a pattern that you would see on a butterfly wing starts to form around his eye, sort of cupping it. It seems that it happens for a few seconds before he realizes it and tries to cover it up by touching the area, and in an instant, it's gone. No one can deny that the footage is rather odd, especially as he touches the area and poof, it's magically gone. It is super possible that we have a butterfly shapeshifter on our hands. Imagine. If I could be a shapeshifter, that's what I would want to be. Something with wings. Probably a fairy. That would be great. In our number 8 spot, we have US General David Petraeus. On June 15, 2010, the US General David Petraeus appeared to faint during a conference, but at one point though, his face appeared to be, well, not human. The footage of this one does appear to be a tad blurry, but it does seem like something has happened to his face. His face looks like it's, deformed, and the person that was looking at him and talking before he fainted did look a tad scared, but it could have been because he could see something was wrong. So there's that. But also, at one point, somebody stood up and conveniently blocked the camera from seeing him, so that's sus. But honestly, the footage for this one is too blurry for me to say, yeah, probs are reptiles. But the people that filmed it and shared it definitely said that they saw something that day and it did not look human. In our number 7 spot, we have Lady Gaga. Okay, Lady Gaga is an interesting one because there is a video that seemingly shows something going on with her eyes, but also she literally said on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert that she, quote, has always liked to shapeshift. Very sus, Gaga. The viewers of the show thought that it was a very interesting choice of words, and so many thought that there was a bit of truth to what she said, as if the energy around the word held more weight. I don't know. Certainly there are so many people that believe that Lady Gaga has had contact with the devil, and so it would make sense if she was a shapeshifter. Remember that time she suspended something in the air with her magical force field? Okay, but for real, is she a magical devil-like being or a shapeshifter? Would love to know your vote in the comment section below. In our number 6 spot, we have Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle, actress turned literal princess when she married Prince Harry, has had quite some speculation around her over being a robot. Now, I've heard many things, including reptilian, and some people believe something has just, replaced her. But the robot shapeshifter is an interesting theory. It started when a clip went viral over Harry and Meghan wearing masks to promote Madame Tussauds new Harry and Meghan edition. But what made everyone feel the creeps is not just the fact that their facial expressions are unsettling, but also because Meghan is not blinking. Terrifying. Whereas Harry apparently was. Anyways, I think that this got everyone to start theorizing that even though this is a mask, she may actually be a shapeshifter robot, and you know what? I don't blame them. We're probs living in iRobot and don't even know it. In our number 5 spot, we have President Bush. Now, this is a clip of Papa Bush, the 41st president of the US, speaking in an interview, and his eyes seem to change. For those of you who don't live in North America, there is a George Bush Sr. and Jr., and they both became president of the US. Anyways, this clip is of George Sr., aka Papa Bush, and most people are in agreement that he is absolutely a reptilian. I mean, at this point, I'm starting to be convinced that all the politicians are, but who knows? Maybe the whole world is. Maybe I am. Honestly, I wish I could shapeshift. Then I would just shapeshift myself into a passenger that has a ticket to board a flight to Paris and peace out of here. You know what I mean? Anyways, in this clip, his eyes definitely form into slits, and there's no doubt that if this clip is real, and so many say that it is, then, he's definitely not human. In our number 4 spot, we have Aileen Wuornos. Aileen Wuornos, who is known as an American serial killer, did a number of interviews before she was executed on October 9th, 2002. During a number of her interviews, people claimed to have seen some weird shape-shifting happening. This is a clip of an interview that she did where her eyes appeared to show that infamous reptile slit. There is so many people that believe that sometimes shapeshifters are responsible for some of the worst crimes in the world, and then they just, shapeshift out of prison afterwards after taking over the body of humans. That's definitely an interesting theory. I mean, regardless, clearly Aileen was evil, so even if she's not a shapeshifter, I'm sure someone could make a case for her being possessed by a demon. In our number 3 spot, we have Reptile Woman. This woman has been dubbed Reptile Woman for pretty obvious reasons. The footage that was taken of this mystery woman surfaced online and was apparently not altered in any way. The footage seems quite normal until it's broken down frame by frame, and suddenly it's as if you see a different person. Her hands look different, her back, her face, and her eyes. It's fascinating. I personally wish the footage was easier to see, as it's not fully convincing me looking at something so blurry. It just makes me feel like it's been altered, but who knows, I may be wrong, and it sure seems like a lot of people believe that it's real. There have been a few people that have tried to debunk it, and truly I think I'm with them on their analysis. This one is too blurry for me to think that it's possibly real, but whatever, it might be. In our number 2 spot we have M.W. Jeffrey Black Hodgson. Let's call him Jeff, you know, for short. So Jeff is the Grand Master of the Masons in Massachusetts. Yeah, if you don't know anything about the Masons, then definitely have a Google sesh later tonight. That's a whole other rabbit hole in itself. But yeah, if you know anything about the Masons, then you probably won't be surprised that they are on this list. The Grand Master, the big guy calling the shots, is in this video, and he certainly shows signs of being a shapeshifter. From his eyes suddenly showing slits to his skin apparently showing evidence, there are a lot of people that believe that this guy is a shapeshifter. And in our number 1 spot we have Britney Spears. Okay, this one I refuse to believe is real, because I love her. God, I do not want to believe it, but the footage certainly makes you think that it's possible that she's a shapeshifter, or that a shapeshifter at some point had taken over her body. That to me would check out more when you think of everything that she has been fighting for recently in terms of her freedom and gaining full control of her body back again. Who knows, perhaps there is way more to it than we can imagine. I just love her though, so I refuse to believe that she was born a reptile. Anyways, in this shot, her eyes seemingly show slits at times, just like a lot of the other footage that we've shown, and this would point to some kind of reptile living within her.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have the Wyoming Incident. According to internet legend, this was a broadcast hack that happened in 2008, affecting a number of communities in the town of Niobrara in Wyoming. Their regular news show was interrupted with this.
Preparation for the 2008 general election. Republican President Hijack.
Over the next 6 minutes or so, viewers were shown text messages and strange visuals with audio snippets playing over them. Every 10 to 15 seconds a message would appear announcing that this was a special presentation. The text would say things like, "You will see such pretty things," and "You are ill, we just want to fix you," and "What hides in your mind?" Now that last question was later answered with the chilling message of, "We have already seen it." What was even stranger was that people reported having a physical reaction to the footage. This included vomiting, hallucinations, and headaches. Others said that the frequencies played made viewers' eyeballs vibrate and create visual hallucinations. I'm glad we didn't show the whole clip then. Next up at number 9 now, we have Max Headroom. Now this is perhaps the most famous one on the list. Maybe some of you guys have seen it. On the evening of November 22nd, 1987, many people were enjoying an episode of Doctor Who on Chicago WTTW Channel 11. For those Who fans out there, the episode was Horror of Fang Rock. Anyway, the broadcast was interrupted by a signal intrusion. Suddenly, viewers saw an unknown person wearing a Max Headroom mask and sunglasses. Max Headroom was a TV character from a show in the mid-80s. The imposter hijacked the broadcast for 90 seconds in which he rambled about Coca-Cola, the TV series Clutch Cargo, and WGN anchor Chuck Swirsky. To be honest, even with subtitles, it's quite difficult to make out what's being said. At the time, an FCC engineer said that the perpetrators would face a maximum $10,000 fine, up to a year in prison, or both. It's been over 30 years since the event though, and the culprits have never been caught. Coming in at the number 8 spot now, we have Vrillon. This is a strange one from 1977. During a regular news show on Southern Television, there was a broadcast interruption just after 5 PM on November 27th. After some static and visual warping, a voice made this announcement.
This is the voice of Vrillon, representative of the Earthstar Galactic Command, speaking to you.
That person, calling themselves Vrillon, claimed to be an alien commander from an intergalactic association. The disembodied voice spoke for about 6 minutes. The main message was a warning to all humans to put down our weapons of war and to enter a new age of Aquarius. Then, and only then, would we make it to the next level of evolution.
We'll suck your energy from you, the energy you call money, and we'll put it to evil ends. giving you worthless dross in return.
Moving on to number 7 now, we have Playboy. I'm sure I don't need to explain to you guys what Playboy is, and if I do, I probably shouldn't. Needless to say, its late night TV shows have been very popular for many, many years. It's one of those channels where you wouldn't expect to see much religious talk, shall we say. However, that's exactly what you would have seen if you tuned into the channel on September 6, 1987. Someone interrupted the broadcast that night and displayed a quote from the Bible. I wonder how that went down with the Playboy viewers. The Bible verses were taken from Exodus and Matthew and read, "Thus saith the Lord thy God, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." The white text and black background appeared during a movie that Playboy had on called Three Daughters, and a number of viewers phoned in to ask what was going on. Police were able to trace the signal though, and 3 years later a man called Thomas Haney was identified as the culprit. Next up at number 6 now, we have the nuke. Okay, for this one I want you guys to do a bit of imagining now. I want you to imagine you're just chilling at home, just watching a channel that's showing beautiful scenery, live, it's playing relaxing music, that sort of thing, and then you see this. Yeah, that looked a lot like a nuke, and people in Czechoslovakia thought so too when this appeared on a TV show called Panorama in June 2007. The show usually just showed scenic footage of the Czech countryside to attract tourists to Prague and the surrounding area. When the camera appeared to show a nuclear bomb exploding during its morning broadcast, all hell broke loose. Some people who lived in the area started trying to leave before the radiation spread, others were contacting the government asking what to do. The government received so many panic calls that they had to issue an official statement confirming that Prague had not been bombed. It turns out that the footage was created as a performance piece by a group called Zothoven. I'm sure their artistic message is appreciated by some people out there, but maybe not the ones who thought they were actually having to flee for their lives. Coming in at the number 5 spot now, guys, we have The Old Couple. This is a really strange one that occurred in July 2007 during regular broadcasting on ABC's affiliate channel WJLA. This image appeared on the screen. Now, to this day, nobody is exactly sure what this picture is of. Clearly, it's two faces, one of them is smiling and one of them looks quite concerned. The faces look like they've been computer generated. Now to me, it looks like something out of a 90s video game. This creepy image stayed on the screen for several seconds with no sound before completely vanishing. Many people said there was a dark meaning to all of this, that this was no ordinary interruption. The cable company in charge of the broadcast said there was a programming mix-up from an advertisement for the Oprah Winfrey Show. That seemed to satisfy most people, but things took a turn when videos of the event were all removed from YouTube due to restricted access. To this day, I still couldn't find any clips of this on YouTube. All that has survived is this image and the questions that come with it. Coming at number 4 now, we have War of the Worlds. Have you guys ever seen the War of the Worlds movie with Tom Cruise? I really like that movie, I'm not gonna lie. But did you know where the title for that movie came from? In 1938, future filmmaking legend Orson Welles created a radio drama based on H.G. Wells' novel The War of the Worlds. It was made to sound like a genuine news broadcast about aliens from Mars invading Earth. If you guys were to hear it on the radio today, you might think, oh, this is obviously a piece of written drama, it's not real. Well, back in 1938, on the eve of World War II, it was a very different time. Many people listening to the broadcast missed the introduction where it clearly states that the following is a piece of radio drama, and they thought it was totally real. This is what they heard.
About 20 yards to my right. Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill.
Now, according to legend, some people were so convinced that America was being invaded by Martians that they fled their homes in a panic. In the following days, there was an outcry for broadcasters to be regulated to stop this thing kind of happening ever again. That failed, and the piece went down in history as one of the most famous pieces of radio drama ever, and possibly one of the greatest pranks of all time. Next up at number 3 now, we have Handy Manny. Some of our North American viewers may have grown up watching this kid show. The animated TV series follows Manny, a repairman with talking tools. It's fun, it's educational, they sing, you get the idea. Handy Manny is also famous though for a shocking broadcast interruption which occurred on May 1st, 2007. Viewers of the show in Lincroft, New Jersey had their episode interrupted by a clip from an adult movie. Yeah, say no more. Many of the other interruptions we talked about usually last for 10, 15, 30 seconds. The adult film clip on Handy Manny went on for several minutes. Naturally, people wanted an explanation. Thousands of kids must have seen this. Comcast was the network that was responsible for the intrusion, or at least they should have been the ones to stop it from happening. They didn't have an answer for why it happened, and over a decade on now, they still don't. Moving on to number 2 now, we have Mayday. On January 3rd, 2007, Channel 7 in Australia was airing a Canadian documentary called Mayday, which features cases of air disasters. At some point during the broadcast, things got strange. The visuals continued as normal, but the audio started repeating a single phrase on a loop. One quick-thinking YouTuber uploaded this video of the event. Many people think that the voice is that of a man from America's deep south saying the phrase, "Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord." See what you think. That went on for an astonishing 6 minutes before everything returned to normal. Many people wanted answers, but Channel 7 were very evasive. They denied that there had been an intrusion, but also disputed what the clip was actually saying. They claimed the voice said, "Jesus Christ, one of the Nazarenes." The fact that so many people disagree with that has only added fuel to the fire that something very strange happened that day. And finally, number 1 now, we have Coast to Coast AM. That's the name of this talk show run by Art Bell. He was used to strange calls on his show, but things got even stranger on September 12th, 1997. That night, Art got a call from a guy who claimed to have been an employee at the mysterious Area 51 base, where conspiracy theorists say the US Air Force contained and studied aliens and their crashed spacecraft. The caller sounded terrified and claimed that they were coming for him and that he didn't have much time to share with the world what he knew about Area 51. He talked about extra-dimensional beings who are not what they appear to be, that they have infiltrated the US military and are now taking over.
Okay, well, what we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra-dimensional beings.
The caller began to sound more erratic and panicked. Finally, he started talking about how governments are trying to get human populations down to a manageable number so that they're easier to control. Just after this, the line went dead when the power cut out at the station. By the time they got the backup generators running, the caller was gone. Conspiracy theorists say that it was more than a coincidence that the caller was cut off and never heard from again just when he began to spill the beans on secret government activity. What do you guys think?
Alright, coming into number 10, we have the earthquake. Shake, shake, horror shake. This actually really terrified me. In September 2017, a Mexican news station, Foro TV, was broadcasting live on air from Mexico City. This was when the studio was hit with a 7.1 magnitude earthquake. Oh my God. The reporter at first looks calm and determined to finish his segment, but then have a look at the fear in his eyes. Check it out. Then what's even scarier is when the camera cuts to another shot and you can see the equipment in the studio swinging violently overhead. Have a look. I think if I were the reporter, I would be more concerned about one of the heavy lights coming down and smashing my head open than I would be about the ground opening up, but honestly, both concerning. Imagine seeing this on live television too, like how terrifying. The earthquake was actually the deadliest to hit Mexico in more than 30 years. Coming into number 9, we have the sexy Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is a family-friendly viewing activity. Kids and adults alike get together to watch their favorite teams. But in 2009, 80,000 viewers in Tucson got an unexpected eyeful. Standard definition viewers had their Super Bowl Comcast coverage interrupted by hardcore porn for an eye-watering 37 seconds. It seems that a cable employee was behind the interruption and Comcast Cable had to fork out $800,000 in compensation. This went to viewers who had seen the saucy footage in place of the Pittsburgh Cardinals game. Coming in at number 8, Anonymous hack Fox News. In 2015, Hacktivists Anonymous, known for their creepy smiling Guy Fawkes masks and altered voices, took over a live Fox News broadcast. Fox News was conducting a euthanasia interview with Dr. Jack Kevorkian when Anonymous took over. Have a watch.
They deserve it.
Dear Fox News, it has come to our attention that you have been alienating the American people
They berated Fox for purposefully scaring people about terrorism and covering up corporate corruption. Anonymous said, "You have sacrificed your journalistic integrity for the dollar. Unfortunately for you, the dollar cannot stop an idea whose time has come." They end up by saying that they've been watching Fox and they know what they've been doing, and also they've been poisoning the minds of America for too long. Anonymous does not forgive and does not forget. I quote. Honestly, this is pretty scary, especially because of the masks. But I have to say, I do enjoy this kind of horror movie, so I'm just gonna sit back and popcorn it up. Fox News. Who knew? Coming in at number 7, we have Captain Midnight. I love a good strike story and incidents of standing up to the man, and this is exactly what Captain Midnight was attempting to do. Why? Because cable's really expensive. Captain Midnight was a character constructed by an HBO electrical engineer who was annoyed at the channel for raising their subscription prices to $12.95 a month, which back in the day that this happened was around $30. This was the 80s, and $30 a month is a lot to watch TV. While that doesn't sound that scary, the takeover did include a threat. It said, "Showtime movie channel beware." Here's a clip of the moment that the takeover happened. Then there was a period of black and white with kind of messed up signals, which was pretty chilling. Check it out. One of the commenters on the video added further insight into the incident. BNSF1995 said, "All of the crackling throughout is the HBO broadcasting station trying to up their power and Captain Midnight fighting back by upping his power. Eventually HBO lost and was forced to stop at risk of blowing their transmitters." Oof. Coming into number 6, we have Monsters in Marquette. Zombies? In America? You heard it here first. In 2013, an emergency broadcast went out on 2 television stations affiliated with PBS and ABC in Marquette, Michigan. Am I saying this right, Michigan? Is it Marquette? Is it Marquee? You let me know. The stations were infiltrated by trickster hackers who put out an alert to say that civil authorities in your area have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living. What? This was in like a banner across the screen and it was worrying. The message said, "Follow the messages on the screen that will be updated as information becomes available. Do not attempt to approach or apprehend these bodies as they are considered extremely dangerous." Some people were genuinely concerned when they read this, other people saw the funny side, and some people thought it was very disrespectful. I honestly do see the funny side, it was clearly a hack to me, but I get it that this is not what you want to hear from your trusted local news station. The local station manager and news director Cynthia Thompson issued a statement on behalf of ABC 10 saying that the channel was working on rectifying the hack. Coming into number 5, the CNN coup d'etat. On July the 15th, 2016, CNN Turk, the Turkish branch of the CNN television network, was taken over by force by rebelling soldiers. As CNN Turk were reporting on the coup against President Erdogan, armed members of the country's militia stormed the studio and forced broadcasters off air. I can't find the moment that the anchors were actually dragged off air, but I can find some pandemonium in the studio footage. One guy goes up to the camera to try and explain what's happening, but he doesn't realize that all the microphones are off. Employees filmed the chaos as armed militia dragged them from their building. Honestly, how worrying does this all look? Can you imagine being a Turkish citizen watching TV and seeing all of this happen before your very eyes live? Sometimes watching live coverage of Brexit is stressful, but this is like a whole new level. Coming into number 4, we have The Buzzer. So this is a bit of a broadcast mystery right here. UVB76, also known as The Buzzer, is a radio station that broadcasts on the frequency of 4,625 kilohertz. Now the radio station is pretty boring. Or is it? It's a series of buzzes repeated every 25 minutes for 24 hours a day. It usually sounds a bit like this. But sometimes the broadcast is interrupted by a voice speaking in Russian. Now, the voice is oddly instructive. The station has been noted since the 1970s, and there are all kinds of conspiracy theories as to what the beeps and interruptions mean. On Christmas Eve 1997, for example, the voice interruption came at 9 PM GMT. This time, after a series of nonsensical numbers and letters, the names Boris, Roman, Olga, Mikhail, Anna and Larissa were mentioned. why? Since 2010, voice messages have increased and a lot of people have come up with many speculative reasons. The general consensus is that it's a Russian spy channel. Shortly before the 2016 presidential election, the buzzer was broadcasting even more than ever. So what does this mean? Coming into number 3, so scary, we have This Is War. A declaration of war interrupting live TV. Honestly, this is very terrifying, especially considering the likelihood that if you're watching the channel live, you probably live in the country or you're at least in the country that's at war. In July 2006, Lebanese fighters fired shots over the Israeli border, leading to a 34-day war in which Israel retaliated very, very hard. We know that there's a lot of historical beef here, but honestly, finding out that you're at war on TV is stressful. Israeli hackers took control of the Islamic Lebanese political party Hezbollah's TV station with a chilling message of war. The hijack signals started showing images of dead Hezbollah guerrilla soldiers, which is not what you want to see. An image of the political party leader was then shown, along with sounds of gunshots and a voice saying your day is coming. So it was a declaration of war and also a massive threat. Coming into number 2, we have the Christine Chubbuck broadcast. Christine Chubbuck was a 29-year-old news reporter who worked at WTOG and WXL-TV in Florida. It seems that the reporter was depressed and had joked about suicide, but on the morning of the 15th of July 1974, the young woman took over Suncoast Digest, something that she'd never done before. She delivered 8 minutes of news and then a film reel that was supposed to show a restaurant shooting, but this film jammed. The anchor shrugged it off and calmly said, "In keeping with Channel 40's policy of bringing you the latest in blood and guts and in living colour, you're going to see another first. Attempted suicide." She then shot herself live on air behind the right ear and died of her injuries. The technical director cut the footage as soon as they could, but thousands of people saw the death happening before their eyes. Later, it was revealed that the whole event had been scripted by Christine, who must have planned her baffling takeover. Unless you saw the footage live, you'll never see the incident. Luckily, the tapes of the death have been destroyed, and if there are any remaining, they are heavily under lock and key. There was a Sundance movie starring Rebecca Hall where the infamous moment was reenacted, so if you want to get a sense, here's a clip.
WZRB policy.
Don't give up on it.
Presenting the most immediate and complete reports of local blood and guts. TP30 presents what is believed to be a television first.
Finally, I really hate to say this, at number 1, we have The Assassin. This was one of the scariest and most awful TV interruptions of all time, and out of respect for the dead, I'm not going to show you any of the footage, I'll just tell you the story. In August 2015, a local TV reporter and a cameraman were shot dead in the middle of a live news broadcast for WDJB in Virginia. This all happened at 6:45 in the morning. Reporter Alison Parker and cameraman Adam Ward were broadcasting a live interview with an official from the Chamber of Commerce. This all happened when they came under fire. The official, Vicky Gardner, was harmed, but she did survive. She said she played dead. The gunman was a former reporter at the same station, Vesterly Flanagan, known under the on-air name of Bryce Williams. The perpetrator shot himself hours afterwards following a police pursuit. Audiences saw the murder live on air, which was quickly cut back to the studio. Flanagan had also recorded the incident on a GoPro and uploaded it to the internet. Sickening. Luckily, it has since been removed. Parker and Ward's co-workers were offered counselling, but it really shocked a lot of people.
Coming in at number 10, we have Max Headroom. This one is one of the most bizarre and famous TV hijackings of all time. Back in the era of basic cable, before you could steal stuff on the internet at any moment of the day, and before Netflix was funneling endless content right into your home, you had to get all your viewing pleasures from the movies and cable. And one day in 1987, there were some people in Chicago who were in for a very strange surprise. They were all just chilling, watching Doctor Who, and then out of nowhere there was a guy who was dressed up as Max Headroom. Max Headroom was a fake character from a British TV show. He was completely digital looking, like an episode of Reboot. But this dude wasn't the official Max Headroom. No, he was wearing a mask and he just started yelling things into the camera, saying some strange things like the Coke slogan. I don't think that he worked for Coke. And he closed the whole thing out by pulling down his pants and having a woman with a French maid's outfit spank his butt with a fly swatter. The best part about this is no one had any idea who this was, and people think that he had some sort of nefarious plan, but I think he just wanted to cause chaos. Next, we have Mayday. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the show Mayday, but it's one of those disaster reenactment shows where something goes terribly wrong and they interview the people that it happened to. It's the kind of stuff you see on the Discovery Channel now that they don't have any shows about science. But this was being shown in Australia on the 7 network back in 2007. That seems like a lifetime ago now. But the show was doing its regular thing, talking about planes falling out of the sky, and then out of nowhere an audio recording just changed the entire tone. It was someone saying over and over, "Jesus Christ, help us, Lord." Now, when you're watching a show about plane crashes, you can imagine that this might be seen as something that was supposed to be there. But this was on repeat for 6 minutes. One of the weirdest parts about this was that it was all in a southern accent. And on top of that, once the story hit the news and everyone was talking about how weird this was, and the video was uploaded to the internet, the network denied that it ever happened. They said that the audio was part of the original broadcast. Like, what are you talking about? There's a 6-minute chunk of someone calling out for help from Jesus. Next on the list, we have God's opinion on Playboy. I don't think that the Lord and Savior would be very happy about people watching the Playboy channel. Well, there was a Christian man who certainly thought so, and he wanted all the people watching to know. This was back in 1987 when the Playboy channel was interrupted by a broadcast that was screaming Bible verses about how they're sinners and God is watching and blah blah blah. You guys know how it always goes. The man responsible for this was Thomas Haney, who worked for the Christian Broadcasting Network. He would be arrested for this 3 years later. Next on the list, we have The Old Couple. This one is shrouded in a field of mystery. To this day, no one knows what went down with this hijacking. For this story, we're going to have to shoot back to the year 2007. Everyone at home was watching some regular cable television, and then something insane came in and shocked all of them. It was a still image of 2 faces. Now that doesn't seem insane, but it was the mood that the faces set. Neither one of these faces were real people. They both looked like they had been made in some sort of software. One of them had a big happy grin on its face, and the other one was a frowning creepy face, almost like they were representations of theater, comedy, and tragedy. This image stayed on the screen for a while. There was 0 sound that came along with it, and then it was gone. To this day, no one knows what the hell it meant or why they were there. Some people think that it was a dark omen, but the network says that it was just a scheduling error, and the image was actually from an ad that was supposed to play later. Next on the list, guys, we have Captain Midnight. Not everyone who is going to take over a broadcast is going to do so just for a strange spanking session or to yell out religious incantations that don't really make any sense. Now, some people are going to do it for a noble cause. Well, in their mind, it's probably a noble cause. Captain Midnight, also known as John R. McDougal, that's his real name, was a man who used his understanding of satellite networks to send out a message to everyone who was watching HBO back in the 80s. This, of course, happened close to midnight. Well, it was closer to 12:30, but you get what he was going for. The broadcast interruption that he sent out was chastising HBO for their high prices. Their price scheme was affecting his satellite business, and he had to get a second job, so he wanted to protest, and it was a pretty famous protest. He might have gotten away with it if he wasn't such a blabbermouth. The dude was eventually caught because someone heard him bragging about the whole thing at a bar, but on the bright side, he didn't have any jail time, just had to pay a fine and then was put on probation. Next on the list, we have The Zombies Are Here. I don't know if you guys are into zombies taking over the earth, but when I think about it, I kind of get excited. Like, if the zombies come and we all have to go into full apocalypse mode, then it resets a lot of stuff back at 0. Who cares how much money you have? The new currency is food, water, and bullets. But people in Montana might have thought that the end of the world was coming via zombie takeover, and it was sent out to the perfect group of people. People watching the Steve Wilkos show. You know, the folks that are hanging out watching daytime TV are the ones who would be most excited about the end of the world coming. But during an episode of the Steve Wilkos show in 2013, there was a warning that went across the screen and warned the people that the dead were coming back to life and attacking the living. Of course, this was fake. I think if there's anywhere in the world where the dead are going to come back to life, it's not going to be in Montana. Usually it would seem that these things happen because of some advanced science going awry, and I don't think there's any high-tech happenings going on over there. Next on on the list, guys, we have the Wyoming hijacking. I think we have gotten to the point where you can't hijack a signal anymore unless you have some of the best tech on the market, and even if you did, you would probably get caught pretty fast. But back in the day, you could get away with it easy peasy. The Wyoming incident is one of the weirdest ever. It was a hijacking of a news broadcast after the 2008 election. Seems like a pretty good time to steal the news. There would have been so many people watching. The broadcast was just some black and white bars across the screen and a series of words that popped up. It closed out with some very strange images of heads that seemed to be digitized. The messages were creepy, claiming that people will see beautiful things and that some of the people will become sick. And the messages all used the statement "we" as if there was a group of people who were sending out these messages. The whole thing was very strange and never explained, and there were rumors that some of the people who watched the broadcast actually started to hallucinate. Next on the list, we have Really On. Nothing like a good old-fashioned message that came from outer space. That's what we really need on this channel. Well, this was for sure a message from a person, they just claimed that it was from space. The Really On incident lasted about 6 minutes and it took place in 1977. It was a voice that was able to commandeer the news at 5 a.m. and talk to the people watching and say that he was from space and that he was warning humanity that they needed to stop fighting, that they were too in love with war, and that if they didn't change their ways, that a force would come in and stop them. He also said that our constant fighting was causing us to miss out on the age of Aquarius, which was the next step in evolution. Next on the list, we have Kaluga. For this one, we're going to have to shoot over to Soviet Russia in the mid-60s. That must have been like Disneyland. I'm just joking. It was a very dark place and there were no jokes. But back then, there was something known as the Kaluga incident, which might have been one of the scariest things that ever happened during a TV hijacking. This happened in the city of Kaluga. Everyone was chilling, watching TV, and then out of nowhere, a message came on the screen that made everyone feel like they were about to die. The message said that the Americans had launched a rocket at the USSR, and these were in fact nuclear warheads. There was mass panic, but eventually everyone got the word that the message was a fake. The person responsible was an 18-year-old boy who was using a transmitter to hijack the signal. He was later arrested and had to make a public apology and swear that he would never broadcast anything ever again. And finally, guys, we have the Wenzhou protest. This is one of the crazier ones on this list because it wasn't just someone sending out a vague, unclear message or something creepy put on TV for an unknown reason. Back in 2014, in the town of Wenzhou, China, there was a very clear message that popped up on cable. It was a message speaking out against the communism in the Chinese government and a message telling people they should switch to a pro-democratic system. They used images of Tank Man from the Tiananmen Square to get these messages across, and the hijack was up for about 10 minutes. This was a short-lived moment. Now, as far as I know, the people who pulled off this stunt were never found. But there's one thing I know about China, and that's don't speak out against the government unless you want to go missing. So there is a chance that these people were found and just put in a hole so no one would ever find them ever again.
At number 10, we have Max Headroom. If you were in Chicago in 1987, then you probably saw one of the craziest things that has ever been on TV. It was so nuts because it made absolutely no sense and nothing was explained. It just popped up for 90 seconds and it took over the city and then it was gone. It was kind of like having a robber come into your home, steal nothing, but then throw syrup in your face and then leave. And you're just sitting there like, what just happened? Let's have a look at this clip. That is what people were watching for 90 seconds in the middle of an episode of Doctor Who. The worst part is back then you couldn't rewind TV, so a bunch of people at home were probably like, that was weird, but what happened to those 90 seconds of Doctor Who? I gotta wait until they play the episode again. And it got even weirder than what I showed you. At one point that masked figure got up, pulled down his pants, got on a chair, and then this lady in a French maid's costume came up and started spanking him with a fly swatter. It's just so weird. There's no answers and we never know who did it. Like they never caught the guy, so it's just sitting there in the ether and everyone was confused. At number 9, we have Looney Larry. You thought the only time kids would be safe was while they're watching cartoons. It turns out kids are never safe, thanks global warming. But there was a broadcast that was hacked in Wisconsin. A bunch of kids were just hanging out watching SpongeBob. Well, if it was SpongeBob, it was probably a bunch of kids and some college students as well. But out of nowhere, the show was switched to this dude who called himself Looney Larry.
Hi, this is Looney Larry. Welcome to my show, and
The clip goes on like that, and Larry does some pretty strange stuff like breaking SpongeBob records in this creepy basement and saying some pretty controversial things that I won't repeat here. At number 8 we have Disney Channel porn. This story is so cliche it almost seems like it would never happen outside of a movie, but here we are. There was one sunny morning where a bunch of kids were sitting around watching the Disney Channel, probably while their parents were getting stuff ready so they could go to school. And then some hardcore porn got laid over the broadcast. It was 2007 in New Jersey, and a bunch of kids who were watching a show called Handy Manny stopped seeing a young boy living out his dreams of carpentry and instead saw something that is only saved for mommies and daddies who love each other. Comcast was the cable network that caused the mix-up, but they never said why they screwed up so royally. They just used the Shaggy method and said, "It wasn't me." At number 7 we have Fight for Freedom. Not all of the TV interruptions have to be perverted or weird to be scary. Some of them can be totally for a good cause, but they will scare the crap out of you because you have no idea what that means for your country, and it could mean that it's time for a revolution, and revolutions are always terrifying because people will just start dying. In the city of Torun in Poland, a broadcast got stolen in 1985. Why? Because 4 very important people in the Polish science community had a message for the people. They wanted everyone to boycott the upcoming election. They were tired of how the government had been taking from the people and demanded that the people rise up against them. The police were able to trace the signal back to these 4 men, but because of civil unrest and fear of a revolution, they didn't arrest them but only fined them. Yeah, public officials start to be real nice when the walls are closing in on them. At number 6 we have a porn reversal. I don't know if you guys remember Playboy television or even Playboy, but back in the day people used to have to watch porn on TV. You didn't get to search everything based on very specific perversions that you have deep inside your brain. No, you had to sit down and watch the Playboy channel or another channel like that, and it would be porn all day long. And one day in 1987 there was a broadcast that got interrupted by a bunch of scary text. It said, "Thus saith the Lord thy God, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." Yes, it was religious text. See, it's not just porn that can interrupt something wholesome. You can also interrupt porn with something pure, and it's totally jarring. The police eventually tracked this guy down, and this wasn't the only time he had done something like this. And this was all pre-internet era. This guy probably is disgusted by the way the world is now. If you can handle the Playboy channel, woo! At number 5 we have C-SPAN meets Russia. A lot of people tune into C-SPAN to get their daily dose of news, and there was one day in 2017 when everything was going as normal. There was a bunch of people in suits talking about the budget and deficit and Congress, and then out of nowhere it stopped being about boring politics, and then it was just a boring Russian talk show. Everyone was like, what is happening? And this didn't just pop up for a few seconds and then disappear. It was on the screen for 10 minutes. That's a long time to have interference with a Russian signal. Now, why is this on a list of top 10 scary TV interruptions? Well, that's because a lot of people think this was Russia testing their ability to hijack American television signals, and it was extremely successful if that's what it was. That means they could still be doing this but not switching our programming, but grabbing our data. Stay away from my data, Russia. No one needs to know what my data is except for Instagram so they can give me better ads. Yeah, I want the good ads. Discount Steam games and gaming accessories. See, that's how you get the good ones. At number 4 we have zombies. Sometimes you're just trying to watch some trash TV and then a zombie outbreak ruins everything. And if you don't watch trash TV, then I don't trust you, and you deserve to be eaten by zombies because you're up to something. I don't know what it is. Well, there was an episode of the Steve Wilkos show that was just being as trash as ever. Everyone around the world was just drinking it in and loving every second of watching people's lives fall apart, and then they got hit with some news that told them that their life was about to fall apart. Well, if you lived in Montana, you did. This following message started moving across the screen.
Civil authorities in your area have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living. Follow the message.
That is terrifying, and also you shouldn't do that to people. Not because it's going to scare them, but because someone is going to get really eager. Some people have been waiting their whole life for the apocalypse, and now they have the chance to go full apocalypse. You're just giving them false hope. Like, that's rude. At number 3 we have the old couple. The less context you have about something, the scarier it can be. Like if you got a text and it just said, "I'm going to kill you" from an unknown number, that's super scary. But if you get a text that says, "I'm gonna kill you," and it's from your roommate and you use his toothbrush to clean the bathroom, then you're like, oh, okay, this totally makes sense. I don't have to freak out about this. I mean, I shouldn't go home, but I get why this is happening. Well, in 2007, ABC's signal was hijacked and all that was thrown up on the screen was the face of two old people staring back at the viewer. Then it was gone. There has never been a hint as to what this could have been or where it came from. ABC said it was a small mistake, but they have worked effortlessly to get every picture and every video removed from everything. You can't find these videos on YouTube or anywhere. It seems like this has been a major cover-up, but the biggest question is why? Why the hell would you cover this up if it was something so small? At number 2, we have threats against the Hezbollah. In 2006, the Israel-Lebanon war was reaching new heights. As the old saying goes, all is fair in love and war. Israel wanted to find more ways to attack Lebanon outside of just explosives and bullets. The Hezbollah was a group that was very much the spearhead in the war against Israel, and they had a television channel known as Al-Manar TV. This is how a lot of people in Lebanon would get political information and updates on the war. Well, Israel found a way to hijack this signal and send a very threatening signal to all the people in Lebanon. They showed the leader of the Hezbollah with a crosshair over his face and the message, "Your time will come." If you're at home watching that channel for the news and then you see this would be so terrifying. You wouldn't be able to fall asleep after that. And for our number 1 spot, we have Christine Chubbuck. One of the most shocking things to ever happen on television. It changed news, it changed broadcasting, and it changed the world. Christine Chubbuck was a news anchor and her life wasn't moving exactly as she wanted. She was constantly battling against the different parts of her life. She wanted to bring interesting, wholesome news stories into the news, but that's not what got views. It was salacious death and terror that people wanted to watch, so her bosses were pushing her to find those kinds of stories. Her love life wasn't exactly what she wanted either. It's believed that at 30 years old, Christine had never been physically intimate with anyone. With that plus a few other factors stacked on top of her, like her inability to have children, she was dipping into a very depressed state. Because of all this, on July 15th, 1974, she walked into the studio, started a live broadcast, and then committed suicide on live television. People originally thought it was a prank. It wasn't until the story was in newspapers that everyone knew it was real.